Good morning, Flatirons. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. My name is Steven, and I'm the Groups Director for the online campus. I've got a couple announcements for you. One is we have Baptism Weekend coming up October 26th and 27th. We always have tons of people reaching out saying they wish they would have known. So here's your reminder to book what you need to book to get here for that weekend. The main thing I want to talk to you about is groups. Groups are starting next week, and we have tons of open spots, both in person and digitally. So go to the link in the comments and sign up for your group. Now we're going to tune back in with all the rest of the campuses for our final message in our Burnout series. Thanks.
Every time I'm with you alone, it picks me up, you just set me down. I can feel it rushing under my skin. You're a cage, won't you let me in? On my toes, lock the door, pretty face through the don't know if I'd be so sure again. Oh, yeah. My eyes are still burning red. So turn the lights out, yeah. You're not so hard to forget. With all the lights out. My eyes are still burning red. So turn the lights out, yeah. You're not so hard to forget. With all the lights out. All right, what's up, Flatirons? Great morning to see you all this morning. Let's stand up together. Let's sing out. Let's put our hands together. All right, come on, let's sing together. I was falling, but you caught me. I was fighting, but you won me. I was lost, but must I wait for the light of the dawn? How can I be sure of your promises? And how far can I walk when the night overwhelms? And how can I be sure of your promises? And I fix my eyes on you. And I fix my eyes on you, God. Your plans for me are good. Your faithfulness is sure. Your mercy is will endure. Your love will make a way, and I will not be afraid. There's power in your name, and I'm covered by your grace. Your love will never fail me. How long must I fight all these battles within? Oh, I will hold on to your promises, 'cause you won't let me go, and you won't let me down. And I will hold on to your promises. And your plans for me are good, and your faithfulness is sure. Your mercies will endure. Your love will make a way, and I will not be afraid. There's power in your name, and I'm covered by your grace. Your love will never fail me. And I'll fix my eyes on you. And I'll fix my eyes on you, God. And I'll fix my eyes on you. And I'll fix my eyes on you. And your plans for me are good. Your faithfulness is sure. Your mercies will endure. Your love will make a way, and I will not be afraid. There's power in your name, and I'm covered by your grace. Your love will never fail me. Your love will never fail me. Your love will never fail me. Hey, good morning. Welcome to Flatirons. My name's Mark. So glad you're here. High five like 2 or 3 people. Give them some high fives. Say what's up. Have a seat. Clap it.
Flatirons, what's up? Good morning. What's going on? Anybody feel good? Anybody? No? Yes. The CU grads are at this service. Okay, I see you. Hey, wherever you are online, welcome. I'm glad you're here. God Behind Bars, what's up? I'm so glad you guys are with us today. Hey, guys, I gotta say, I know we have a lot of Rams in the house. Your team played pretty good for a little bit. You got a couple good players, but the Buffs, let's go Buffs, come on. How great was that? Anybody happy? I'm happy. And Coach Mel is a man. That is a man. We're gonna be best friends. Hey, if you are here for the first time, we're so glad you're here. If you're welcoming us for the millionth time, we're also glad you're here. Welcome into this room. We have it's Labor Day. Are you guys excited about that? Anybody going camping in the 200-degree heat? No? Me neither. Hey, I got 3 teams for us here in Lafayette. Some of it applies to you guys online as well. And then we're going to close up this series called Burnout already, which is crazy. So, hey, first one is this. At our 9 o'clock service and our 4 o'clock service every single weekend, we have sign language interpreters right over here on my right. So if you've ever been to those services, maybe you've seen them. They do an incredible job every single week of keeping up with the dumb stuff I say and how quick Ben and Jim can talk and teach. They're actually super, super talented, awesome people. If you are somebody who is maybe studied some sign language in school and you're like qualified or certified, or whatever that looks like, to be a part of their team, they are looking for people to add to that team. It's real easy. You can send an email to signlanguage@flatirons.com and jump in with them both here in Lafayette and a bunch of our other campuses that also need interpreting. And here's the deal. They're not looking for somebody every single week. So if you can just give a couple weekends in an entire year, that would help them out greatly. So jump on there and send Tracy an email and just let her know that you're interested in being a part of the team. Maybe you're online and you're watching and you're connected to some program or something like that. We would love anything that you can get us. Cool? Awesome. Second thing is this. I had a couple things happen to me this weekend that made me feel really old, besides the fact that my hair is gone and when it's there, it's white. The first one is that my 12-year-old son has the beginnings of a little mustache on the sides of his lip, which is fantastic, guys. It's so funny. The second one is that we are welcoming a brand new class of interns on Tuesday. And these are interns. They make me feel old for a couple reasons. One, they look like they are very young, but also about half of them came through our youth group program here and grew up here at Flatirons, which is really exciting and cool. So I'm proud of them for that. I'm proud that that's the kind of youth group that we have here. But I've known them since they were little kids, and that wigs me out just a little bit. Here's what I'm showing them to you. Interns here at Flatirons, we bring them on as kind of full-time employees. They jump right in. It's not just about getting me coffee, although that's a great thing. It's really about them having a full-time job and doing something significant in ministry. So maybe you're somebody who really has a heart for young adults, or you believe in internships and think that the power of those are really huge. Or maybe you're just excited for the future of the church, and that's the face of the future of the church. Here's what I'm asking you. They raise their own salary, and several of them are still behind on that. So if that describes you in any way and you want to jump on flatirons.com and give to any one of them or all of them, that would be amazing. So check that out. Welcome our interns. They're amazing kids. Last thing I have is this. Last weekend, I shared this. If you missed it, or you ignored me, or you thought you could get through it, and you're like, it's going to be okay, groups launched again. So some of you are avoiding a group because you've had bad experiences maybe, or something like that. Maybe you got kicked out of a group. Maybe you left a group because it was weird. All that stuff has happened to me in the past, but I want to tell you guys today, I'm part of two small groups. I have a men's group that I've been with for several years, and I also have a group with my friend Chris for young adults with special needs. That's a really amazing group of kids, and every single time that I meet with them, something happens where God takes me closer to him, and it's through every single one of the people in my groups. I just want to challenge you that maybe you're looking for a perfect situation, and you might not find something perfect, but you might find something really, really good that turns into the right thing for you. So flatirons.church.com/groups. You can go on there and search by area, by type of group, whatever it might be, and we would love to have you look for the right fit for you or your family if you have one, whatever that season of your life is. Groups at Flatirons Church have changed everything, and I love them. So that's my last thing. I'm going to pray. We are closing up Burnout. This week, we were trying to find a song for the band to play, and all of a sudden I was like, I found it, guys. There's one Imagine Dragons song we never played before. So we got it. We're going to play it. I'm going to pray, and we're going to close up this awesome series, Burnout. So God, thank you so much for everybody here. God, for everybody out there watching. God, we pray for people in Texas and Odessa right now that are dealing with the aftermath of a tragedy. God, we pray for our friends in Florida as this hurricane approaches. I guess all along the East Coast, wherever it's going to hit. God, we pray for the preparations and for the safety of people out there as well. But God, I pray in this room and for people watching online right now, that wherever we are in life, whether we feel burned out or we feel completely refreshed and ready to go, God, that this season of burnout is going to hit at some point. So God, I pray today that the stuff that you've taught us for the last several weeks about what it looks like to rest and to let you be the thing that refuels us over and over again, God, that we would take something away, but not because we're able or because we're capable or because we're good enough, but because Jesus is. And so God, today I pray that if we're in burnout now or will be soon, that we would leave here knowing that Jesus is bigger than every circumstance in every season. We love you. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Patience only gets you so far. Light will get you further. Pain will only make your heart hard. Toss and furies weather. Innocence is beautiful to see. Won't you box it up for me? For me. Give me strength, give me peace. Just another downpour, don't let it get the best of you. It's only up from the floor, light everything inside of you. So don't burn out on me. Don't burn out on me. Sadness is my enemy, I fear the time will age him gently. Walking by my side for all these years, it seems that we've grown friendly. Happiness is beautiful to see. Won't you box it up for me? For me. Oh, give me strength and give me peace. Does anyone out there want to hear me? Just another downpour, don't let it get the best of you. It's only up from the floor, light everything inside of you. So don't burn out on me. Just don't burn out on me. It's just another downpour. It's just another downpour. It's just another downpour, don't let it get the best of you. It's only up from the floor, light everything inside of you. I don't wanna let you go, and I don't wanna let you go. So don't burn out on me. I don't wanna let you go. I don't wanna let you go. So don't burn out on me.
All right. Hello, how are we? We good? Yeah? Good. Hey, my name's Ben. I'm the teaching pastor here. I'm glad you're here today. Let's jump right into some big news for today, all right? Big news for my family, at least. Last weekend, Allie and I moved, and we moved all the way to North Dakota. We moved to the northern part of Dacono. Sorry. That's a mean joke. I'm sorry. I wanted to make it. But anyway, we did move, but we just moved to Dacono. Anyone who's been through the crazy process of, through the crazy process of buying and selling a house, you know how crazy it is. It's stressful, right? It was stressful for us. But in the end, everything worked out, got into this new house. We love it. We're thankful for it. Love it for a lot of reasons. Probably my favorite thing about the new house that we're in is it has more than one full bath, which is great, because our other place only had one full bath. And with a family of 5 and the 3 kids getting older and older and older, it just made for crazy mornings, right? There were way too many times where it's like I'm in the shower and Allie's brushing her teeth and one of our kids is dropping a deuce, like all within 10 feet of one another. Just a foul way to start your morning. Anyway, so we're in this new place, thankful for it. You know, the kind of place we could see ourselves living in this place for the rest of our lives, right? Here's the reason I tell you any of this, all right? It's because I did this thing, and I think maybe a lot of us can relate to this, but I did this thing where I convinced myself that as soon as we moved into this new place, everything would become perfect overnight. I don't know if you've ever done that. Like, you know, you have this thing, you're like, as long as I can get this, then everything will be great. That was us. I convinced myself of that. So I convinced myself, we're gonna move and then we're never gonna be sick ever again. And we're never gonna be in a bad mood ever again. We're gonna be chipper every single day. And I convinced myself that we'll never have to defecate in the same room that someone's taking a shower in and ever again. I convinced myself that what we needed was a little bit more, right? Just like one extra bathroom and a little more space, and then that will be enough and everything will be peachy after that. Right? But two things happened immediately on the day that we moved in. Right, the first thing that happened on the day we moved in, I hate admitting it, is that I got this sensation that we needed a little bit more. I hate hearing myself say that out loud, but I'm being honest with you. It was this feeling that we needed more. Not more house, but we needed a few more things to fill with the extra space in the house. So this sensation of great, we have an extra bathroom now, but we should probably buy a shower curtain and, an extra set of towels and soap and trash can and plunger and all that stuff, right? And then that will be enough. Right? And then you go in the living room and you're like, oh, it's a little bit bigger. That's awesome. But this is a bunch of extra space. We should probably get a couch or a rug or something like that. I don't know. We'll get that stuff, but then that will be enough. I hate it about myself, but I had told myself, this new house is great, but it actually isn't enough yet, right? We still need a few more things. That was the first thing that happened on the day that we moved. The second thing that happened on the day that we moved is life did not become perfect overnight. Surprise. You know why? Because I moved into the house and my family moved with me into the house, and a change of location is not going to change us, right? That became very clear before we even finished unpacking. Because our kids are back in school. If you got kids in school, maybe you're in the same situation. It's they got sick immediately on day one. They're up with fevers all night long. We're not sleeping very well. And then in fact, earlier this week, our 1.5-year-old Chloe, she got sick in the tub while 2 other kids were in the tub with her. Yeah. And it wasn't vomit, it was the other end. It's terrible, I know. Yeah. I know. I'm not trying to be crude and just get an easy joke. Here's why I tell you this. I had told myself in my head that, never again would anyone use the toilet while someone else is taking a shower. And that had changed within days to okay, Chloe has just made our shower her literal toilet, right? So Allie and I spend the better part of the next hour deep cleaning all of the little people and all of the things, right? And you know what I'm thinking the entire time? I'm thinking, all right, we just need to get a couple more hazmat suits and then we'll be okay. We'll be enough. And I can't be alone. I'm hoping I'm not alone in this so that I don't hate myself when I go home. Have you ever been there? Right? Okay, wow. We all are terrible people. Yeah, thank you. That makes me feel better. So you know what I'm talking about. It's this place where you put all your eggs in one basket. Right? You're if I can only get this thing, then I'll be happier and then I'll feel like I'm enough. But it's never enough. Right? It's this place where you think to yourself, I just need to get this other job, or I just need to hold out until this vacation, or just need to get a car, or maybe it's I just need to, carve some more time out for this hobby, then I'll be happy, or I need to lock down this relationship with him or her, and then once I have those things, then that'll be enough, and I will feel like enough. But it's never enough, right? Let's face it, your new job just came with different responsibilities and a different level of stress. And the new car gets old the second you drive it off the lot. And you started dating her, and that's great. But guess what? You're broken people, so it's not going to work like it does in the movies. The hobby thing's a good example. You got a snowboard. Good on you. That's awesome, right? But it's not enough yet. Why? Because, now you got to get the helmet and the pants and probably need a new ski jacket, and you definitely need to get the roof rack on your car, and now you got to go buy a ski pass, and now on top of all that, I got to work overtime during the week just so that I can have a whole entire Saturday to go snowboarding, right? It's never enough. The sensation I'm talking about is this feeling of more, right? I got to do more. I have to get more. I have to be more than I am right now, and then I'll be enough, and it's never enough. And that's what I want to talk about in this final week of the series, Burnout. In case you missed a few of the weeks, we've been taking a hard, honest look at our burnout. Burnout is our spiritual, emotional, physical exhaustion, usually at the result of, stress at work or crazy schedules at home or drama in relationships, whatever. Burnout is one of the reasons we feel wiped and tired all the time. It's one of the reasons we lash out in anger when we shouldn't. It's one of the reasons we escape reality by zoning out on our TVs or on our phones, right? And I want to talk about this today because we're not sure what to do about this level of burnout. And so that's what we've been discussing. And today I want to zoom in on this very American concept that more is better. Right? I got to do more, be more, get more. I want to zoom in on that because it usually stems from a place where we don't know who we are. We don't feel like we're enough. And it ends in burnout every single time. Right? Because it's exhausting. I don't have enough, got to get more. Oh, still not enough, got to get more. Not enough, got to get more. It's exhausting. Whether we're conscious of it or not, this is basically the motto of our 21st century American culture that we live in. It's this: we work more in order to get more, right? Convince ourselves we're not enough, we need a few more things. So we work more in order to get more. We got to be honest about our culture. I mean, for example, this is, the message that lays at the bottom of 99% of the advertisements you will ever see in your lifetime. Right? Whether they're selling cars or they're selling carpet cleaner, right? At the bottom of it, the message is you're not enough and you won't be happy. At least you won't be as happy as this beautiful person in the commercial until you buy our product. So come and buy it and come and get it and get more. Seriously, next time you're watching a game, pay attention to the commercials and you'll realize that's the message at the bottom of all of them. Right? You'll have this moment, you're like, I've been brainwashed my whole life. Commercials even trick you into buying stuff you don't need. Right? Like I watch baseball. I watch a lot of baseball, and I watch it on MLB TV. And all the commercials in between the innings, they all assume I'm a completely different demographic than I am. And so the commercials are all like, life insurance because you're probably about to die because you like baseball. Life alert system because you're probably ancient because you like baseball. And then the other one is like medication to, like for men. If you know, you know. If you don't know, watch baseball, I guess. But I'll see these commercials and it'll convince me it's like, maybe I do need a life alert system, Like I trip on the steps all the time that could be helpful for me. That's the message of advertising, is you're not enough yet, so you should go get some more. You should go buy it. And then the buying thing is out of control. It's relentless because of technology, right? We have Amazon.com and overnight shipping and drone delivery, and we got Black Friday and Cyber Monday. You don't even have to leave your house anymore to go and get the thing that you think you need. And so we buy like crazy. We're not just buying stuff online to make ourselves feel like enough. We're also selling ourselves online in order to feel like enough. That's what social media can become if we're not careful with it. Like, I don't feel fun enough or pretty enough or cool enough or got it together mom enough. And so we craft these images that appear like we are those things, and we post them on the internet for the world to see, and then we think to ourselves, if I get a few more likes or comments or followers, then maybe this will feel real. I will feel like I'm enough. We have identity crises. Don't know who we are. Don't feel like we're enough, and we're trying to medicate that by working more in order to get more. Maybe if I have enough, I will feel like enough. Now, the crazy thing about this whole concept of work more in order to get more, the crazy thing is that it has succeeded in America to a degree. It succeeded in the sense that the typical American does work more than ever before, and the typical American does have more than ever before, like in the history of man. I want to share some stats with you. They all come from this book called Garden City, written by a guy named John Mark Comer. I'm thankful for this book. This is the book that we used with some other resources to craft this whole burnout series. So if at the end of today you're still curious about work and rest and Sabbath, I'd recommend getting that book. All right? But Comer, in this book, he points out some stats about America, and he says this: America, we make up 22% of the global economy, even though we're only 4% of the world's population. So 4% of the world's population, us, America, we spend about a fourth of its money. Since the 1950s, the per capita income of Americans has tripled. Since the 1950s, the average size of an American home has grown by 1,000 square feet, even though the average size of an American family has shrunk by 50%. What am I getting at? Is this: guys, we did it. We made it. We worked more, and it got us more. The problem is that it's not making us any happier. Because Americans spend $250 billion on prescription drugs every single year. The number one prescription is cholesterol medication. The second prescription is antidepressants. I'm not throwing shade. I'm not throwing stones. I have those pills in my bathroom drawer at home. What I'm saying is that since the 1950s, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, ADHD, depression, anxiety, they've all increased hand in hand with our economic growth. Ben, you sound like the most depressing TED Talk we've ever heard. What is your point? My point is this: we did it, all right? We work more than ever before, we have more than ever before, and we're miserable. To quote the wise and sage philosopher, Tyler Durden from Fight Club, he says this, he says, we buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like. It's true. We don't even know why we're doing the more thing. We got tons of followers and very few friends. We work tons of hours, and the hours are working us over, and we got tons of stuff, but we have very little understanding of who we are at the end of the day. We have more than ever before because we've worked more than ever before, but we're miserable. And so is there any hope for us? For anyone out here who's like, yeah, I don't feel like enough, and yeah, I am looking for that in my work or in my quality of life and my stuff, where's the hope? Is there a chance for us to step out of the hamster wheel of more, but never feeling enough? And the answer is yes. There is hope there. And it's actually one of the reasons that God says that you and I should take a Sabbath every single week, which is what we've been talking about in this series. In case you missed it or you're new, welcome, first of all. But then the word Sabbath, it's a weird churchy word. I admit that. Don't let it put you off. When I say Sabbath, it just means a weekly day of rest, a day where you don't work. So anytime I say Sabbath, that's what I mean. And the question I want to answer today is this: how might a weekly day of rest help us with this endless pursuit of more and this endless feeling that we're never enough? That's what I want to answer. To do that, you and I got to become Bible nerds real quick, all right? So you can put on your imaginary, suspenders and WWJD bracelet or whatever, and we're going to dig into the Old Testament real quick, okay? So taking a Sabbath, one day a week where you don't work, this is one of the 10 commandments, all right? We talked about that in here before. What you might not know is that there's actually 2 sets of 10 commandments in the Bible, all right? There's one in Exodus and there's one in Deuteronomy. The commandments don't change, but the language around them changes because they're written to different people in different situations. And the language about taking a Sabbath changes, and it's important that we notice it. So I'm going to point it out to us. So in both sets of the commandments, the charge to take a Sabbath, it starts the same. It says, hey, work your butts off for 6 days a week, but then on the 7th day, stop working and don't earn a paycheck and don't plow through your to-do lists and just rest. They both start the same. But then after that, the reason for why that might be a good thing in your life changes. The first set is in Exodus. And in Exodus, the reason for why you might want to take a Sabbath is this. It says this: because in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth and the sea and all that's in them, but then he rested on the 7th day. And therefore, for that reason, the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and he made it holy. Basically, that's week 1 of our series. If you were here, you remember that, right? We rest because God rested in Genesis. We rest to stop and sit back and enjoy the very good things he's given us. You might remember that. That's the whole for the love of God, enjoy your life. For the love of God, eat a donut thing that we talked about in week 1. That's the first reason God gives us Sabbath. And that one's in Exodus, right? So here's the situation going on in Exodus. God gives these commandments to a dude named Moses, and Moses has just led all the Israelite people out of slavery. That happened 3 months ago in Egypt. And so the Israelite people, they're fresh out of slavery, and they're riding the high of freedom. And they're 3 months into this exciting journey to the promised land, this patch of earth that God had promised them and told them, you can live here and be free here and have a nation here and call it home. In Exodus, life is very good for the Israelite people. Life has never been better for the Israelite people. The thing we need to catch today is this. In Exodus, the Israelites know exactly who they are. They've seen God in big, miraculous ways show up and protect them. They know who they are. They're kind of cocky about it. We're God's chosen people, and we're free. And so God says, once a week, for the love of me, stop working and enjoy what I've given you, because I've just given you freedom. Go enjoy it. That's the first set of commandments in Exodus. The second set of 10 commandments is in Deuteronomy. And by the time Deuteronomy rolls around, everything has changed for the Israelites. Deuteronomy was written after the Israelites have been free from Egypt for 40 years now. All right? They are not riding the high of total freedom anymore. They are not fresh out of slavery anymore, and they still have not arrived at their promised land yet. Been wandering around the desert for 40 years. Got to imagine this. There's a whole generation of men and women who were so excited to see this promised land, and they died off without ever seeing it. There's a whole new generation of people. They're in their 30s and their 40s, and all they've ever known is wandering around the desert. And then on top of all of this, Moses, their fearless leader, the person who's been telling them where to go, is on his deathbed. In Exodus, life is very good for the Israelites. In Deuteronomy, they are not in a good headspace. They're starting to spin out. They're losing trust in Moses. They're losing trust in God. They're starting to grumble amongst themselves. They're starting to go, you know what? Maybe we should just walk back to Egypt. Right? Sure, we were slaves. Sure, we were worked to death. But it's got to be better than wandering around the desert all the time. Why would a nation of people ever consider walking back to slavery? The only reason that I can think of for that is the Israelites don't know who they are anymore. Right? 40 years is a long time, long enough for you to lose your identity. And so they're starting to go, well, maybe we're not God's chosen people, and maybe our freedom was a fluke, and maybe really all we're good for is slavery. They're having an identity crisis. And so Moses, on his deathbed, he gives them a sermon, kind of like what I'm doing now. That's the book of Deuteronomy. He retells them their story. He reminds them of who God is, reminds them of who they are. You really are God's chosen people. And while he's retelling the story, he brings up the 10 Commandments again. And the reason for why we should take a Sabbath changes, and it changes to this. He says, remember that you were slaves in Egypt, but that the Lord your God brought you out of there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. And therefore, for that reason, the Lord your God has commanded you to observe the Sabbath day. Moses looks at his people and he goes, remember, you were slaves, but you're not anymore. And God did that for you, and that's very good. And I don't want you to forget about that. And so one day a week, just stop working and rest and enjoy, and this is important, and remember that you are not slaves to the Egyptian system anymore. God has set you free from that because you're his chosen people. Now you can take off your imaginary suspenders and WWJD bracelets. We're done being Bible scholars. We are done analyzing the differences between the 10 Commandments. All right? Why did I do that? Why did I do that voice? I don't know. So why did I just walk us through the 10 Commandments? What does any of that have to do with our real life here and now in 2019 in Colorado? Well, a lot, actually. Because if I could sum up the differences between the two Sabbath commandments, it would be this. In Exodus, Sabbath is like a way of saying yes to God's system of life. God's system of life is work 6 days a week, and then on the seventh, rest and enjoy. God's system of life is work, rest and enjoy. Work, rest and enjoy. Repeat. In Exodus, Sabbath is a way of saying yes to God's system of life. But in Deuteronomy, Sabbath is a way of saying no more to the Egyptian system of life. It's a way of saying, I'm not going to walk back towards that slavery. I'm not going to live under that oppressive system. And the unfortunate reality is that the American system of life is eerily similar to the Egyptian system of slavery thousands of years ago. What do I mean by that? Well, let's rewind in the Israelite story back to when they were slaves in Egypt, and let's look at some of the stuff their slave driver, Pharaoh, yells at them, because I think it's going to sound very familiar to us. One of the things their slave driver, Pharaoh, says to them, he says it multiple times over and over again, says it a lot in this story, is this. It's simply, get back to your work. Get back to your work. The Egyptian system is a system that says, don't stop working, ever. Come in early, leave late, don't take your PTO, come in on your day off, check your email one more time, and then one more time again before you go to bed. Why? Because there's work to be done. Get back to work. At one point, Pharaoh punishes the Israelites, and he looks at them, he says this, he goes, I'm not going to give you any more straw. Right? That's what they made bricks out of. No more straw. You can go and find straw wherever you can find it, but your work will not be reduced at all. Still got to make the same amount of bricks, but I'm not going to give you the resources. The Egyptian system is one that values working hard more than it values working smart. Sound familiar? What about this? The Egyptian system is one that says the quota is God and your deadline is God, and moving product and moving a lot of product is God. Why? Because profit is God, even if it comes at the expense of stealing life away from the employee. Does that sound familiar? So now the Israelites are, they got a lot of bricks to make, but no resources, and they're buckling under the pressure. And so Pharaoh just starts taunting them, and he looks at him and he shouts, lazy, that's what you are. You're lazy. Get back to your work. The Egyptian system is one that says if you can't handle the pressure of work, it's not because work is too much pressure, it's because you're lazier than the next guy. Does that sound familiar? See, back in Egypt, the Israelites were commodities. They could be bought and sold and traded, just like you and I can be hired and fired and transferred. Back in Egypt, the only value the Israelites had was in what they produced, just like you and I tend to find our only value in what we produce, what our job titles are, what our paycheck is. Back in Egypt, the rhythm of life was not work, work, rest. The rhythm of life was work, work, die. And sadly, that's how a lot of us approach our lives. We just work, 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 and we're just going to do that until we die. I could go on and on about the similarities between ancient Egypt and current America, but I think I've made my point. My point is this: it's been thousands of years since the Israelites were slaves in Egypt, and we live here in 2019 in America. This is the land of opportunity. This is the land of freedom, and we still have Pharaoh up in our heads. We still have this slave driver in our heads saying, no matter how much you produce, no matter how much you work, and no matter how much money you make, you are not enough. So work, work, work. And produce, produce, produce. Why? Because you're only as much as your sales numbers. You're only as much as the take-home amount of your paycheck. You're only worth the amount of likes that you get on Instagram, and you're only as good as the amount and quality of crap you can buy. And guess what? You don't have enough. You know why? Because you're lazy. So get back to work. Whether it is the Egyptian system of slavery or the current American system of work more so that you can get more, the result is always the same. Chips away at our identities. We don't know who we are anymore. We don't feel like we're enough. And so we willingly step into the hamster wheel. More, more, more. Got to do more. Got to get more. Got to become more. And it's not working. Let's pray and go home. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to leave you in that depressing place. There are a couple people who are like, okay, a single tear. I guess we're going home now. So this is probably resonating with some of us, right? Especially for any of us, you're like, yeah, I don't feel like enough. And yeah, I am chasing after that in my work or in my quality of life, the amount of stuff I can get, whatever. And it is kind of depressing. You know, it's always kind of depressing to stare our reality in the face. The good news is that in any situation you could ever name, Jesus brings hope into it. I believe that. That's his thing. He says, what you got? I can deal with that. There's hope here. Including this hamster wheel of more, more, more that we're caught up in our culture. And that's why Moses' reason for taking a Sabbath thousands of years ago is still applicable today. Because one of the reasons we rest, according to God, is this. We rest to say, enough already. This American system that says, you're not enough until you have enough, and you don't have enough, so go get more. Sabbath is our way of stepping out of that hamster wheel and saying, no, enough already. I'm not going to play that game. Sabbath is our chance once every single week to look at the slave drivers in our heads and say, enough. All right, for example, enough work. I'm done working today. Now, side note. This is a side note, so I'll come over here. Also, it's fun to watch the cameras. Okay, side note. All right, before you think I'm damning work, I'm not. All right, work is a great thing. All right, work is one of the first things that God ever blesses for humanity. It's a gift he gave us. He gave us work. He said, come work with me at this place. All right, so work's not a bad thing, and that's why our very next series is going to be all about work. All right, we've done a series on rest. We'll do a series on work. That's like our entire life. Hopefully that's a good foundation for the rest of the year. I mean, all of our time is spent working or resting. You know, unless we did a series on being asleep, which I think would be boring, so we won't. All right? So we'll do a work series next, and we're going to talk about why did God make work? Why would it be good for us, right? And what do I do if I hate my job? Or what do I do if I can't find a job or I've retired? We'll talk about all of it, all right? That's in 2 weeks. Don't miss it, all right? Until then, all right? I spit a lot when I laughed just then. Did you see that? Should I do it again? No? All right. Let's move on. Here's what you need to know now. Work in and of itself is not the problem. All right, the problem is this. Anytime that we seek to find our identity, our sense of meaning in life, our joy and our happiness in our job titles or our paychecks or our level of importance in the company, if we do that, we will come up empty-handed every single time, I promise you. Whether you work at a corporation or you're a firefighter or you're something in between or you're a pastor, we will come up empty-handed. It'll always require more work and more promotions and more product. Taking a Sabbath one day every single week to just not work. This is our way of saying enough already, right? I refuse to find my identity in my job. I step out of that hamster wheel. I say enough already. I say no to that system. Sabbath says enough already. It says enough stuff. All right, enough stuff. Again, your car, your house, your toys, your snowboard, your followers, so they aren't bad things in and of themselves. Again, the problem is if we're seeking to find a meaning for life and joy and happiness in things. If we do that, we'll come up empty-handed every single time. Not going to be enough. You'll need more. More money in the bank, more followers online, and more stuff to come home to. Taking a day every single week to not go out and get more money and then not go out and spend it. It's our way of saying enough already, enough stuff. Right? I refuse to find my happiness and joy in things. I step out of that hamster wheel. I say no to that system. We rest to say enough already. We look at the hamster wheel, we go, I know it'll make me miserable. I'm not going to step in there today. And then the more that you and I do that, the more we are able to find where our true value comes from. And that's what the other point of Sabbath is. It's this. We rest to say, I'm enough already. I'm enough. You're enough already. I know you're in between jobs. You're still enough. I know you're very sick. You're still enough. How is that possible? That's what Jesus does for us. If you put your faith in Jesus, you believe he is who he says he is, and he'll keep his promises, then your most valuable relationship in this world, your relationship with God, is good to go. Which means that when God sees you, he sees sons and he sees daughters. Who are we? Are we slaves to finding our value in our work, in our quality of life, and the stuff we own? No. No, you're set free from slavery to that. You were set free by God with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Who are you now? Well, one of the authors of the Bible says this. He says, how great is the love the Father has lavished on us. In other words, how awesome is this, that we should be called children of God? And then he drives it home and he goes, and that is what we are. When God sees you, when God sees me, he sees his sons and he sees his daughters. What I mean by that is he sees through your paycheck or a lack of one. He sees through your success or through your failure at work or at school. He sees through your Facebook status. He sees through your abundance or lack of things. He sees all the stuff on the outside. He sees through it to the real, genuine, honest, vulnerable you. And then he says, that's my son, or that's my daughter. And they're enough already as is because of Jesus. I love them. We rest to say enough already to the hamster wheel. More, 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 more. And we rest to remind ourselves we're enough already because of Jesus. So let me leave us with two real simple, practical ways we can step out of the hamster wheel. These are things you can try on your upcoming Sabbath, your next day of rest. They're just suggestions. You don't have to do them, but I'm going to try them, and I think they sound like good ideas. All right, the first one is this. Don't buy anything. Don't buy anything. All right, here's what I mean. I'm not being legalistic. Right? We're not a legalistic church. Jesus was not legalistic. I'm not saying you have to do this. I'm not saying you have to do this every weekend. I'm not saying you can't put gas in your car or anything, right? What I say when I say don't buy anything is maybe just one day, don't buy anything that you think is going to make you happier or make you feel like more or make you feel like enough. Say no to that system. Enough already. On our next day of rest, let's enjoy the lives that we have, not the lives that we're trying to purchase. And so the new shoes, the bottle of bourbon, the season of TV, right? And they're not bad in and of themselves, but maybe for just a day, don't buy anything that you think is going to make you happier. Not buying those things, it's our way of reminding ourselves because of Jesus, we're enough already as is. I don't need that extra stuff to be enough. It's one thing you can try, don't buy anything. The second thing you can try is don't sell yourself. Don't promote yourself. Kind of two ways this plays out. If you lean towards workaholic like me, then don't promote yourself through work on your next day off. What I mean by that is become unavailable. Right? This whole 24/7 availability, got to work all the time, always checking email, work here and there, at dinner and after dinner and before bed. This constant availability at work, it's our way of promoting ourselves, even if we don't see it. It's our way of saying, like, I'm reachable, I'm valuable, I'm important, you can't do this without me, and I know that, and so here I am to save the day. Just tell your bosses, tell your employees, on this day, you're not going to be able to get me. For one day a week, don't promote yourself through work. If you're not a workaholic, maybe this one will resonate. One day a week, don't promote yourself through social media. Just one day a week, don't open the app. Right? Don't post how your day's going and then await for feedback and validation. And don't check anyone else's posts. Let's be honest. Half the time they just make us feel like our lives aren't enough. Also, it's just kind of weird. Like 10, 15 years ago, we would have thought social media is the strangest, dumbest thing of all time. Right? If I went to a friend's house 10 or 15 years ago, I went to a friend's house and he's like, glad you came over, dude. Today we're going to go through my photo album. I'd be like, what? He's like, here's a picture of my vacation from 3 years ago and here's what I ate for dinner last night. I'd be like, I'm going home, dude. This sucks. But But then me too, I'm like walking to my car, I got 5 minutes and I check Instagram and I'm like, oh, Phil ate meatloaf for Friday. That's awesome, I like that. I don't know what happened to me. Just one day a week, don't promote yourself. All right? Don't promote yourself on social media. Don't promote yourself at work. Again, our way of not promoting ourselves is our way of reminding ourselves that because of Jesus, we're enough already, as is. You don't have to advertise yourself. You don't have to elevate yourself. You're enough. 2 simple ways to step out of the hamster wheel this week. Don't buy anything and don't promote yourself. And then instead, with the probably abundance of free time you have because you're not on email or Instagram, take that time to remember that because of Jesus, you are enough already as is. I promise he says that. He says, I've got you. I've done everything that needs to be done for you. Yes, you're in between jobs and it sucks, but you're enough for me. All right? Yes, you've had a really rough road for the last few weeks, but you're enough for me. Remind ourselves that we are enough because of Jesus. Let's pray, this time for real. All right, God, thank you so much for who you are. God, you thought of everything, so thank you so much for creating this system of life. It's one that we ignore, we overlook it a lot, but it's a good way to live our lives. This system of like, hey, for 6 days a week, join me in making something great of this place on earth. And then one day a week, just stop and remind yourselves that I've got the whole thing under control. There's so many reasons. We couldn't even touch all the reasons that we would do that. But you've already taught us that we take a break and we rest just to enjoy our lives and enjoy you and enjoy the things you've given us. We rest so that we can connect with you and prepare for the hard stuff coming up. And then God, today what we're learning is that we rest to remind ourselves that we're not slaves to the system of earning more, including our relationship with you. We're not slaves to that system. You set us free with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. And you say that because of Jesus, we're enough already as is. God, thank you for that. God, I pray that we have for a lot of us, the courage to walk out of the doors and on our next day of rest, we call our employees. It's going to sting a little bit probably. We call our bosses. It's going to be scary a little bit. We're going to say, hey, for this chunk of time, unless it's an emergency, I'm unreachable. We just don't promote ourselves anymore. We don't promote ourselves through social media. We take a break from buying stuff to make us happy, and we sit and we remember that we are enough already as is. God, I love you very much. I love everyone in this room and at all of our different campuses very much. God, thank you for who you are, and most of all, I love your Son who makes all of this stuff possible for us, and it's in his name that I pray, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Who am I that the highest king would welcome me? I was lost, but he brought me in. Oh, his love for me. Oh, his love for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Free at last, he has ransomed me. His grace runs deep. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Yes, he died for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place
so much for being here, Flatirons. We're so glad you all spent your morning with us. Have a great Labor Day tomorrow. If there's prayer, if you need someone to pray with you, you can do that up here at the front of the stage with the prayer team. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.